Hi, my name is Amanda Grady. For my PechaKucha assignment, I'll be discussing Cal Poly SLO's racial diversity and inclusion. I'll begin with some racial and wealth statistics, a background of events at Cal Poly, followed by efforts made by Cal Poly to create a more diverse and inclusive environment for minorities. It is no secret that Cal Poly SLO is the whitest public university in California. In fall 2020, 54% of our undergraduate class identified as white. This is nearly double the ratio at the average CSU and UC. On average, California's public universities have white populations that make up 22.6% of their undergraduate classes. The lack of racial diversity at Cal Poly can be connected with its lack of economic diversity. About 67% of its undergraduate class comes from families within the top 20%, comparable to Ivy League universities. Compared to other CSUs, they have the lowest ratio of students with family incomes from the bottom 20%. Cal Poly also has the highest average cost of any public four-year university in California when factoring in the amount of financial aid awarded to students. I provided a screenshot of a campus tuition and fees comparison generated by the CSU website. Cal Poly's cost to attend is not accessible to most income levels, but this is not the only reason students chose not to attend Cal Poly. In an interview about why incoming freshmen decide against Cal Poly, Kiana Hamada notes, "I feel that since Cal Poly is predominantly white, I wouldn't feel as comfortable trying to fit into the environment, especially with the ongoing violence and hate towards the AAPI community occurring in our nation today. I wish I could say our fear is unjustified, but Cal Poly has had many incidents of hate against minorities." Most recently, Cal Poly's Jewish fraternity, Alpha Epsilon Pi, woke up to anti-Semitic graffiti on their main fraternity house. In 2018, a frat hosted a themed party during Cal Poly's Polycultural Weekend where members dressed as Mexican gangsters, and someone decided to go as blackface. In 2013, another frat hosted a Colonial Bros and Navajos party. The list of racial hate crimes at Cal Poly goes on. This is not to say Cal Poly has tolerated this. Rewards were put out for any information about the Semitic hate crime. Marches were held to support Asian Americans. Lambda Chi Alpha, along with other fraternities, were placed on probationary suspension, and Kyler Watkins was expelled for his blackface. After these events, the community came together to offer support to the affected minorities and fight against their hate crimes. After the 2018 blackface incident, Cal Poly pledged to make efforts to recruit and maintain a more diverse student body, faculty, and staff, to foster a welcoming campus community, and to continue weaving diversity, equity, and inclusion into the curriculum and co-curriculum. However, since 2018, the student body has not become more diverse according to the PolyView report. The only minority that saw an increase were Latinos by about 1.3%, and the ratio of white students remains relatively the same. Cal Poly did weave diversity into their curriculum by adding a cultural pluralism requirement for all degrees. Courses that satisfy this requirement are essentially history classes which do not focus on the white narrative. Students no longer have the excuse of not knowing the historical racial significance of their actions. Also, when incoming freshmen first move in on campus, they attend a series of diversity and inclusion seminars during SLO days and WOW. In order to make minorities feel more welcomed at Cal Poly, various racial clubs, programs, and resources are offered. These clubs and programs foster a sense of belonging, offering support and mentoring to enhance student experiences. Some notable efforts include Beacon Mentor Program, CORE, Culture Fest, the Black Academic Excellence Center, and the Cal Poly Opportunity Fee. The Beacon Mentor Program, funded by the Office of University Diversity and Inclusion, connects underrepresented students to faculty mentors to help students reach their full academic and personal potential. Mentors work collaboratively with all members of the campus community to increase success and retention of the underrepresented or underperforming students. This program involves about 100 faculty and students. The CORE program invites all minorities to come to campus a week before WOW to get to know each other. It is described as a community of students who support one another. Even after the program ends, since CORE is made up of underrepresented minorities, they have similar experiences and are able to understand one another. It is a great way for minorities to feel included and comfortable at Cal Poly. During Culture Fest, about 32 of Cal Poly's cultural clubs and organizations share pieces of their culture through food and drinks, dances, songs, and art. It was one of my favorite events last year because I got to interact and learn about different cultures at the UU. It is organized by Cal Poly's Multicultural Center. This year it took place over Zoom and was open to everyone on campus, the larger San Luis Obispo community, and anyone else who wanted to learn from and engage with the cultural communities at Cal Poly. The BASE Center's program coordinator says BASE celebrates Black culture, thoughts, history, and ideas at Cal Poly. The goal is to not create a space separate or isolated from the larger campus community, but to engage the campus community in dialogue through the lens of Black culture and identity. Everyone is welcomed at the center to learn about the African American student experience. The Cal Poly Opportunity Fee will go towards the expansion of the Cal Poly Scholars Program and provide financial assistance for high-achieving California students who meet Cal Poly's rigorous academic admission requirement but can't afford to attend the university. Cal Poly hopes it will bring students with diverse backgrounds and experiences. Josie De Leon, Cal Poly's Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, says by increasing access to Cal Poly for students from lower-income families, the university also stands to increase the diversity of its student population. Although I admire the strides Cal Poly has taken to make minorities feel more accepted and comfortable, I also must call them out for a misguided attempt. I am Asian American. I grew up in Rancho Santa Margarita, a primarily white area, and I am very white passing, so I do not relate to a lot of other minorities. However, on my college application, I still identified myself as being Asian and American. In the registration in Cal Poly's acceptance activities like SLO days, housing, core, etc., I deliberately clicked the boxes saying I did not want to be included. I didn't want to be placed in any groups based on my race. Imagine my surprise when I met my SLO days group and I was placed with other minorities. For a school being 54% white, what are the odds that my group was mainly minorities? One of my friends in the group pointed out how we are the only group where the majority were minorities. Placing minorities together in groups is a misplaced attempt to make Cal Poly feel more welcoming and inclusive. Since I did not choose to be a part of it, I feel like it comes across more as segregation, not inclusion. If we want people to understand other racial backgrounds, we need to give them the chance to interact with others. We won't grow if we don't engage with other perspectives. Nonetheless, this one event does not take away from the tremendous strides Cal Poly has made to offer a more inclusive, diverse atmosphere. They are trying to create a diverse and inclusive environment so minorities feel more welcomed. This effort includes the creation of a more in-depth look at our nation's racial history, programs and organizations to foster minority communities, and most importantly, greater accessibility to lower-income students. Despite Cal Poly's past mistakes, they are really trying to grow. Thank you for listening to my presentation on diversity and inclusion at Cal Poly SLO. I hope that it was informative and interesting. One key takeaway is that there are always steps that can be taken to improve diversity and inclusion. Every event can be learned from and can create better actions in the future. If you would like to fact check me, here are the list of websites that I used to create this presentation.